Welcome to the saga of deception. Once I held that honesty was the bedrock of love, but now I see it could be the instrument that demolishes what's constructed on falsehoods. My name is Blake, and this narrative unfolds my tale of how my wife attempted to claim another man's offspring as mine, despite my vasectomy 3 years ago. What started as a declaration of pregnancy soon morphed into an intricate web of deception involving fraud, identity theft, and a scheme to seize everything I had laboriously constructed over a decade. By the end of it all, she wasn't merely on the verge of divorce. She was staring at the possibility of imprisonment. This transpired one Tuesday evening in March. Upon returning home from my job as a systems engineer, Brooke greeted me at the door with an expression I couldn't decipher, not exactly joyous, not exactly apprehensive, but calculated. "We need to talk," she said, guiding me to the living room. Those 4 words never presage anything good, yet I obliged. She settled onto the couch and fetched her phone, scrolling to a picture. As she turned the screen towards me, I saw a pregnancy test with 2 lines positive. "I'm 5 months pregnant," she declared. The words didn't sink in right away. 5 months, not 5 weeks or days, 5 months. My mind quickly traced back the timeline. 5 months ago was October. We'd been distancing ourselves since summer, barely intimate and trying to reconnect. Or so I thought. 5 months. I repeated the number aloud. "How could you keep this from me for 5 months?" I inquired. She had an explanation at hand. I wasn't sure if it was truthful or not. "I kept doubting the tests, thinking maybe they were incorrect. Perhaps it was something else. I didn't want to raise your expectations until I was positive." The reasoning sounded plausible almost, but there was an air of rehearsal in her delivery, like she'd rehearsed this conversation before a mirror. "We're going to be parents," she added, reaching for my hand. "I understand things have been tough between us, but this alters everything. This is our chance at a fresh start." You'd think I'd be overjoyed, given our discussions about children in our early marriage. Yet things weren't as great as they seemed long before the distance, the frequent book club meetings, and when I no longer recognized the woman I wedded. There was another issue, one she apparently wasn't aware of. "Brooke," I said cautiously, withdrawing my hand. 3 years ago, I had a vasectomy. Her complexion paled. For a brief moment, perhaps 2 seconds, sheer panic crossed her face. Then she regained composure, forcing a puzzled chuckle. "What? No, you didn't. Blake, what on earth are you saying?" "January 2021, I clarified, maintaining my composure. "Dr. Palmer at Riverside Medical. You were with your sister in Boston that week. I arranged it then to spare you the recovery process." Her mouth gaped, closed, and reopened again. "You're lying. You're suggesting this to what? To escape fatherhood." "I have the proof," I retorted. "After medical tests, there was no sperm count detected post-procedure, indicating this child isn't mine, Brooke." Suddenly, she rose, her phone tumbling to the floor. "You're mad. You're truly mad. I can't believe you'd invent such a story to dodge responsibility." However, I saw fear in her gaze. It wasn't anger, it was terror. "Show me the proof," she retorted. "Produce these alleged records." "I will," I responded. "But first, I need to know who the real father is." She snatched her handbag and fled towards the bedroom. "I refuse. I won't tolerate your accusations here. When you're ready to apologize and grow up, you'll find me at Sienna's." The door thundered shut. Her car roared, and I remained solitary in our living room, gazing at the glowing pregnancy test image still displayed on her phone's screen, the one she dropped in her haste to depart. That's when I realized. She wasn't just falsifying the pregnancy, she was fabricating everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. Instead, I found myself at my desk gathering proof, commencing with the medical records. This revelation pointed towards a biological impossibility. My vasectomy had been uneventful. I scheduled it during a week when Brooke was away, managed my recovery discreetly, and refrained from discussing it as our talks about children had already ceased by then. The documentation of the procedure was explicit. Bilateral vasectomy, successful with follow-up tests at 3 months and 6 months indicating 0 sperm count. Dr. Palmer's notes even read permanent sterilization confirmed. I meticulously reviewed everything. The consent forms, the surgical report, the lab results. Subsequently, I established a secure digital folder, backing it up in 3 locations. However, the medical records were merely the starting point. If Brooke had been involved in an affair long enough to conceive, there would be additional evidence. All I needed was to uncover it. Her abandoned phone became my primary objective. Knew her passcode, for we'd always shared secrets when trust bound us. Unlocked it to access her messages. First sight fell on a contact named FL, with no given name but a lengthy history dating back 16 months. The mood evolved from friendly to intimate to overtly sexual by the 6th month. "Looking forward to Thursday, same hotel." I feigned a book club engagement, time still on our side before midnight. What if we simply fled, start anew somewhere else? My hands trembled as I scrolled down, then I unearthed discussions about pregnancy. 8 weeks now, the doctor confirmed it today. He remains clueless, believes we're repairing our marriage. With the baby arriving, I'll file for divorce, taking half of everything and collecting child support. Life with you, it's idyllic. Snapped screenshots of all evidence. Later, downloaded a data recovery program to retrieve her erased messages from the phone backup. There, I discovered the true plot. 6 months prior, Brooke and FL had contemplated her intentional pregnancy. 4 months ago, they delved into community property laws within our state. 3 months back, they outlined a schedule, announced her pregnancy, deceived Blake, concealing the birth, instantly filing for divorce, demanding primary custody and maximum child support. FL wasn't merely Brooke's affair partner, he was her accomplice. I continued probing. Bank statements indicated weekly cash withdrawals amounting to over $8,000 within 6 months, under the guise of book club nights. Her car's GPS data, accessible through our joint auto insurance app, suggested frequent visits to a riverside and a boutique hotel located 40 minutes away. However, the most alarming revelation emerged from her laptop. In a folder named Insurance Documents, I stumbled upon a document that sent shivers down my spine. A life insurance policy application, dated 4 months ago, worth $2 million, had my name on it. Brooke was designated as the beneficiary. The signature at the document's base was unfamiliar to me, as I had neither seen it nor signed it before. It appeared someone had forged my signature. I discovered that a substantial life insurance policy had been taken out in my name without my consent or knowledge. The matter was no longer limited to infidelity or child support disputes. It delved into something more sinister. The following day, I contacted Tucker, a specialist in digital forensics at a private investigation firm. I shared the details of the alleged pregnancy claim, vasectomy proof, forged documents, and requested his assistance. Upon viewing the evidence, he stated, "This is grave, Blake. The affair is one issue, but insurance fraud and forgery necessitate legal intervention today." He suggested I consult Barrett, a family law attorney with expertise in handling intricate divorce cases involving deception. Later that afternoon, I met with Barrett, presenting him with all the evidence: medical records, messages, forged insurance policy, financial records. He listened attentively, taking notes. Upon completion, he reclined in his chair, stating, "This is the situation we're dealing with. In terms of family law, there are grounds for fault-based divorce such as adultery, fraud, and emotional cruelty. Your vasectomy records, along with your pregnancy claim, will effectively dismantle any paternity argument she might attempt. However, life insurance fraud is a criminal matter. It's not just a family court issue. It involves the district attorney's office." "What should I do?" I inquired. "We have 2 courses of action," Barrett clarified. "Firstly, we file for divorce immediately and request a restraining order to freeze all joint assets. Simultaneously, I will refer this matter to a colleague who specializes in white-collar crime. If her signature was forged, she could be charged with insurance fraud, identity theft, and potentially conspiracy if her affair partner was implicated." "How long will this process take?" he conceded. "It will take several months, but given the strength of your evidence, you've walked into a trap of your own making. The matter isn't about your victory, it's about the extent of her defeat." We spent the following 3 hours constructing our argument. Barrett submitted an emergency petition for divorce, accusing adultery and fraud. We presented my vasectomy documents as Exhibit A, providing evidence of biological impossibility regarding paternity. As Exhibit B, we included screenshots of her messages, detailing the affair and collusion. Additionally, we filed a separate motion to restrict access to all joint accounts and assets pending an investigation into the forged life insurance policy. Furthermore, Barrett contacted the insurance company herself, informing them of the fraudulent application. Within 48 hours, they initiated an internal inquiry and marked the policy as invalid. However, I wasn't satisfied yet. I desired to discover who FL was, which Tucker assisted with. Utilizing the phone number from Brooke's messages, he conducted a trace and retrieved public records. 34-year-old sales manager Felix Landry, employed at a pharmaceutical firm, married to Gretchen and father of 2 children, held the phone in question. As I contemplated the repercussions, I realized that Gretchen was unaware her husband had been planning to leave her for my spouse, or that he had fathered another child. It was crucial she learned the truth. Via social media, I sent her a concise message. "Let's discuss Felix and Brooke, please call me." In less than an hour, Gretchen Landry, a composed high school teacher, responded to my call. As I disclosed what I had uncovered, she remained poised. I supplied her with screenshots, proof, a timeline. She absorbed the information without interruption, and upon conclusion, there was a prolonged silence. I sensed trouble, and eventually Gretchen admitted, "I noticed he's been acting strangely for over a year. Late nights, secretive phone calls, mood swings. I thought he might have just been under work pressure, but never in my wildest dreams." "My apologies," I responded. "This isn't an easy situation," she acknowledged. "But you didn't lie to me. You told me the truth, which was more than he did." Gretchen unexpectedly allied herself. She procured her own legal representation and filed for divorce, accusing Felix of infidelity and requesting sole custody of their children. More crucially, she consented to testify if necessary, verifying that Felix had discussed leaving her for Brooke and had made references to starting anew with a new family. Her testimony would be pivotal in substantiating the conspiracy. In contrast, Brooke engaged an aggressive divorce attorney, Pierce, who promptly submitted a counterclaim accusing me of harassment, false allegations, and shirking my parental duties. Pierce called for a paternity test and temporary child support until the resolution, to which Barrett retorted swiftly. "My client is accused by your client of being the biological father of her unborn child," he stated. "In January 2021, my client had a vasectomy with no sperm found subsequently. We request a paternity test and will seek penalties upon its confirmation of my client's infertility. Meanwhile, your client hasn't clarified the falsified life insurance policy, unexplained cash withdrawals totaling $8,000 or the $18,000. There is also evidence of months of correspondence with Felix Landry discussing potential fraud against my client." After 2 months into the legal dispute, Brooke spoke up, appearing at our residence during my moving out process. She was visibly pregnant and exhausted, pleading, "Blake, can we really talk?" I reluctantly agreed to grant her 5 minutes. "I acknowledge my errors, but you were dishonest too, falsifying my signature on a $2 million life insurance policy and trying to claim everything I own while saddling me with child support for another man's child. You're not afraid of my lawyer, Brooke. You're frightened of the repercussions." In response, I replied calmly, "You initiated the destruction first. Felix and I were only supposed to restart, not escalate things to this extent," she said tearfully. "To what extent did you intend for it to go?" I asked. "Were you planning to kill me or simply wait for an accident?" Her eyes widened at my question. "Never, Blake, I would never." "Then why the life insurance policy?" I inquired further. "Why such a large sum on a systems engineer who already had sufficient coverage? Why forge my signature instead of asking for it?" She was unable to provide a credible explanation. "Leave," I whispered. After 5 minutes, she departed silently. In May, Brooke delivered a boy whom she called Owen. She promptly sought a court-ordered paternity test from me. Pierce considered my vasectomy records suspect, insisting that DNA testing was necessary to establish paternal lineage. Barrett consented to the test under one condition. If the results were negative, Brooke would be responsible for all legal fees and could face penalties for a baseless claim. The court accepted this stipulation. On Tuesday, they obtained my DNA sample, collecting the baby's sample on Thursday. Results were due in 10 days, but I remained patient because proof is crucial in court. 10 days later, Barrett phoned me. "The results are in no genetic link," he said. "You've been ruled out as the biological father with a 99.9999% certainty. What about the penalties?" I asked. Judge Brennan scheduled a hearing for next week to address this matter. The trial occurred in a more compact courtroom than expected. Judge Brennan, a stern-faced woman in her 60s, oversaw the proceedings. Brooke was seated at the plaintiff's desk, her face expressionless, while I sat with Barrett, our pile of evidence before us. "This is a motion for penalties," Judge Brennan started off. "Mr. Barrett, your client claims that Ms. Brooke filed a false paternity suit. Present your proof." Barrett rose to speak. "Your Honor, we offer the following. First, paternity test results unequivocally proving my client as not the biological father of Ms. Brooke's child. Second, medical documents detailing my client's vasectomy 3 years ago, along with post-operation tests confirming permanent sterilization. Third, text message records demonstrating interactions between Ms. Brooke and others suggesting a false claim." In conversation with her affair partner, Felix Landry, about her pregnancy, Brooke mentioned messages saying, "Blake is unaware, and after the baby's birth, I'll file for divorce and claim half of everything." He laid out each piece of evidence before the judge. Brooke appeared pale. Barrett continued, Your Honor, this wasn't an error. It was a deliberate plan to deceive my client of his assets, property, and possibly his life. Judge Brennan repeated firmly, "Yes, Your Honor, we also present evidence of a forged life insurance policy in his name without his knowledge or approval, with Brooke as the sole beneficiary for $2 million. The insurance company confirmed the signature was fake and reported it to law enforcement. Pierce stood up abruptly. Your Honor, my client denies any intention to defraud. Sit down, Mr. Pierce, Judge Brennan ordered. Ms. Brooke, please stand up. Brooke rose shakily. You filed a paternity lawsuit against a man who had undergone vasectomy, the judge stated sternly. Over an 18-month period, you engaged in an affair while conspiring to deprive your spouse of marital assets and child support for another man's child. You forged his signature on legal documents. Do you have anything to say? Brooke hesitated before responding. I apologize. You apologize, Judge Brennan echoed. Ms. Brooke, you are not only facing penalties in this court, you are facing criminal charges for fraud, forgery, and identity theft. I'm immediately sending this file to the district attorney's office. Regarding this case, I'm granting the divorce on fault grounds. Mr. Blake receives all marital assets, has no alimony obligations, and you are ordered to cover his legal fees in full 1.47. She struck the gavel. The court is adjourned. Brooke broke down in tears, collapsing into her seat. Pierce quietly collected his documents, and I left that courtroom a free individual. In the ensuing 3 months, official charges were filed: insurance fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Felix Landry was implicated as an accomplice. Both parties potentially faced a maximum imprisonment term of 10 years. Gretchen Landry gained full custody of her children and a beneficial divorce settlement. Felix forfeited his job, family, and liberty. He ultimately admitted guilt and served a 5-year term. Brooke proceeded to trial. After 3 hours of deliberation, the jury reached a guilty verdict on all counts. She was penalized with a 7-year sentence at a women's correctional facility. Our house was sold, a smaller property outside the city was purchased, and rebuilding began. The betrayal still occasionally resurfaces in quiet moments, reminding me of how effortlessly she deceived. I stand by my vasectomy choice, my inquiry, and my firm stance against her deceit, because here's what I discovered. Trust isn't solely about faith. It's about knowing someone deeply enough to discern when they're being dishonest. When caught, you don't grant them leniency. You seek justice for yourself. My name is Blake, and this is how I demonstrated that biology doesn't lie, even in the face of deceit from those we cherish.